Hey everyone, I'm Skylagh.
And I'm Chris, and today's big idea is that Jesus wants us to be all in. Skylagh, have you ever had to be fully invested in something?
Actually, I have. Back when I was in college, I was in my final exams and midterm week, and I ended up getting mono, and I had to push through it. It was so hard waking up in the mornings, but I was so invested in my semester, in my class, that I ended up getting a B.
Great job, that's awesome. Well, let's watch this God story and see what it looks like to be all in.
Okay, so what's black and white and red all over? What? A newspaper? Nope, a skunk in a blender. What's up, everybody? It's Jimmy here again. I want to tell you a story about a time that I met a famous movie star. Now, I have this one show in particular that I binge watch all the time. My wife and I love it. We were like all caught up on all the seasons. And then around the time where we finished the season that was available, I had to do a wedding. And so I did the rehearsal, and then I ducked downstairs in this massive, beautiful church to use the washroom. So I was washing my hands, and I heard somebody walk in behind me, and this dude says, "Hey, I like your tattoos." So I was like, oh, okay, that's very cool. And I turned around, and you're not gonna believe who it was. It was the main star of this show that I love, and he loved my tattoos. And then he kind of went into the stall to do his business. And I wasn't gonna lose this opportunity, so I stood outside the stall and kind of knocked and said, is it okay if I wait outside to chat more? And he was like, you can, I'm gonna be in here for a little while, but go ahead. And then he came outside and he stood and talked with me for like 10 full minutes, and I even got a picture with him. He was so friendly, and it just bolstered my love for him, his character in the show, and the show. From then on with this show, I was all in. And that leads me to today's big idea, that Jesus wants us to be all in. Okay, so back to the story in Matthew 16 with Jesus, Peter, and his disciples. From then on, Jesus began to tell his disciples plainly that it was necessary for him to go to Jerusalem, and that he would suffer many terrible things at the hands of the elders, the leading priests, and the teachers of religious law. He'd be killed, but on the third day, he would be raised from the dead. So here's just the part of the story where things get a little weird. Jesus very explicitly tells his disciples that he's going to suffer. He's going to be beaten up. He's going to be killed by the very religion that he's a part of. And then something even weirder happens. Peter, the rock on which all of this other stuff will happen, he comes to Jesus and kind of scolds him. And he says, Jesus, like, what are you talking about? This can't happen. And Jesus says something that sort of stops everybody dead in its tracks. He says, get behind me, Satan. Now, it's important to understand that Jesus is not actually calling Peter, a disciple whom he loves, Satan. He's saying, no, you've lost it. We are not meant to rule, we're meant to serve. So get behind me, this old way of thinking, so the new way, the kingdom of God, can be ushered in. Okay, so then back to the story. Then Jesus said to his disciples, if any of you wants to be my follower, you must give up your own way. Take up your cross and follow me. If you try to just hang on to your life, you will lose it. But if you give up your life for my sake, you'll save it. And what do you benefit if you gain the whole world, but you actually lose your own soul? Is anything worth more than your soul? For the Son of Man will come with his angels in the glory of his Father and will judge all people according to their deeds. Okay, wow, there is a lot that Jesus is saying here. Now, it's important to understand that within the consciousness of the Jews in first century Jerusalem, and certainly the disciples, these young people that Jesus is mentoring and walking with, there was the understanding that the Messiah would be probably like a military leader. These people were occupied by a power that really wouldn't let them practice their own religion, their way of life. And so they wanted justice. And so they probably saw Jesus potentially as this person who would set up Israel as this ruler. And instead, Jesus flips the script. He turns it on its head and says, no. If you want to save your life, you actually have to be willing to lose it. You shouldn't want to just lead people, you should want to serve them. Care for your soul, not just for the stuff that you accumulate around you. You should be willing to take up your cross and suffer for people, for the sake of love. And then there's this other little point that he makes that's sort of strange. He says this, and I tell you the truth, that some of you will not die until this happens, before this comes to pass, he says. Now, this is the way of Jesus saying, it's happening now. The kingdom of God is among you. This is your reality now. Don't try and lead from the front, lead from underneath. Find out those people who have been rejected by religion and pull them into relationship with the love of God. The kingdom of God isn't about rulership, it's about servanthood, love, grace, joy, peace, and other-centeredness. And so when we follow Jesus, my friends, our lives should just look different. They shouldn't look different in like an arrogant way that we know more, that we're just trying to convert. Instead, our lives should look like conversation, relationship, other-centeredness, going the extra mile for people, looking for every opportunity to show love. The kingdom of God is this upside-down culture where we're willing to suffer, to put others' needs ahead of our own. And with that, Jesus wants us to be all in. It's been great to be with you again. My name's Jimmy. Hope you're doing good.
Whoa, when Jesus said to Peter, "Get behind me, Satan," I was thinking, what? But then I got it. Jesus wants us to do things his way, because ultimately it is the best way.
The Jesus way sometimes requires hard work, dedication, and lots of reminders that he has the best in mind for us.
It's true. Think about any hobbies you might do or sports you might play. Sometimes we have to make major sacrifices to achieve our goals.
We're now gonna watch a video. And when I watched the video for the first time, the word commitment had a whole new meaning to me. Let's watch these young gymnasts and see how they're all in with what they do.
This is my brother, and his name is Lucas.
I really like gymnastics, and I train for 16 hours a week.
My name is Rebecca, and I like to play games on my mom's phone. I like to eat, and I also like gymnastics, and I also train 16 hours a week.
Sometimes I have to sacrifice school time because I have to fit in the school time with gymnastics, and I don't know if I should stay home to do homework or if I can go to gymnastics, because then I go to gymnastics and then I wake up really early and gymnastics ends late, so I get not a lot of sleep, and then it's hard for me to do my homework, so sometimes I have to sacrifice that. I have to do a lot of extra work at school. Some moves are really scary because like either you can't see where you're going, or it's just like a lot of strength that you need, and then you can't do the skill, and then it's hard. I've been hurt so many times I can't even remember. Like this one is a burn from a rope or something like that, and one time I broke a chalk bin. It's like a little container where all the chalk is, and I think I snapped it in half. So we had to get a new one, all thanks to me. But I go back to gymnastics because it's still really fun, and I still really like to do gymnastics even though I get hurt a lot. You have to know what you're doing, so you don't just go and try something random that's way too hard for you, because then you're definitely gonna get hurt. If you can't do the skill, you want to have a coach to help you, so they spot you and then they help you with the skill, and if you're gonna fall, they just hold on to you and then you don't get injured.
Sometimes I get scared because like if I'm doing something that I've never done before and I don't know if I can do it, it's either that I'm not strong enough or that I'm just scared to do it. And then other times I just go for it and ask for a spot. My favorite apparatus is floor because it's just really fun.
My favorite event is probably floor or pommel horse. I think I'm pretty good at it, which makes it fun.
For me, the hardest apparatus is probably beam, because you have to land like so many skills on 4 inches wide, and like you have to compete on a high beam or like a beam that's as tall as you. If I fall and I get really injured, like the time I split the beam, it's hard to get back to it, because like you don't want to get hurt again, and like what ifs start happening in your head. But really, after you do it a lot of times, you're not scared of it anymore.
Yeah, usually I pray before I go to sleep, and that I can do well at the competition, have fun, and that I'll remember all my routines and stuff.
I love skateboarding, and I can do it all day if I have to. But all that gymnastics looks like some super hard work.
That's the thing, it is. But they want to do it so much that they're willing to put in the hard work. And that is the attitude that Jesus wants from us, that we want to follow him so much that we're prepared to be all in.
That's it. Well, let's get into our small groups now and see what this looks like in our own stories.